Hi, my name is Sheena Wethington, and today we are going to go over the overview of comparing the regular state assessment and alternate assessment. During this module, we will describe and explain the similarities and differences between the regular state assessment, known as Kentucky Summative Assessment, and the alternate assessment, known as the Alternate Kentucky Summative Assessment, or AKSA, so that parents and guardians will be better informed for Admission and Release Committee, ARC meetings, to discuss and determine state assessment participation. By the end of this module, as a parent or guardian and member of the Admission and Release Committee, you will better understand who takes each state assessment at each grade level, how students are assessed, the types of assessment requirements, the academic standards the students are tested on for each test, and the types of questions and responses students will be assessed with. So let's get started. Students participating in the alternate assessment are required to complete the same assessment requirements at each grade level as students taking the regular state assessment. In Kentucky, the regular state assessment is called the Kentucky Summative Assessment, or KSA. Only students who have been determined by an ARC to meet all criteria may participate in the alternate assessment. In Kentucky, the alternate assessment is called the Alternate Kentucky Summative Assessment, or AKSA. For students completing the regular state assessment, typically most assessments are administered in a group setting with no accommodations. Some accommodations require students to be assessed in a one-on-one setting. For students completing the alternate assessment, the test administration always occurs in a one-on-one setting with an adult using a script to administer the test. The alternate assessment allows for more simplified language in the instructions, questions, and response options. The alternate assessment includes both text and pictures. The regular state assessment is typically completed within suggested time limits, and administration of the test follows the school district testing schedule. A student's individual education program, or IEP, can include extended time as an accommodation, if determined appropriate by the ARC, which would extend the time onto the suggested time limit. The alternate assessment is not a timed test, and students are only tested on one content area per day. Students completing the regular state assessment will either have 4 or 5 multiple choice options with no picture answers. Student responses should consist of short answer, extended responses, and on-demand writing. Students completing the alternate assessment will only have 3 multiple choice options for answers in both text and picture format. Those options include pictures that can be modified by the special education teacher to meet the specific accommodation outlined on the student's IEP, such as the need for larger pictures. This slide shows some questions that might be asked by ARC members during an annual meeting. The ARC will review information and data, including information from the parent or guardian, to determine if the student could participate in the regular assessment with or without accommodations. Knowing the difference between the regular state assessment and the alternate assessment will assist you, the parent or guardian, who is also an ARC member, in providing input on what participation option is best for your student. Now, let's talk about academic standards students will be assessed on during state assessments. Students taking the Kentucky Summative Assessment, the regular state assessment, are assessed on the Kentucky academic standards. Students assessed using an alternate assessment are assessed on the same Kentucky academic standards as well. However, there are alternate assessment targets that mean either all parts of that Kentucky academic standard in its original form are included but not reduced in depth and breadth, which means less complex and extensive, is eligible to be included as an assessment item on the alternate assessment, or reduced part of the academic standards has been selected. Both the regular state assessment and alternate assessment are tested on the same grade level academic standards. As an alternate assessment target represents limits to a selected Kentucky academic standard. An alternate assessment target may reduce parts of the academic standard with specific guidance to what an assessment item could represent. Not all academic standards selected for assessments will have an alternate assessment target. This means that all parts of the Kentucky academic standard in its original form, but they are reduced in depth and breadth, which means they are less complex and extensive, and they are eligible to be included on all assessment items on the alternate assessment. This is an example of a grade 3 reading academic standard that has been reduced by limiting the standard being targeted to only traits, actions, or feelings. The academic standard states it is not limited to the items listed, so staff are able to target specific parts of the academic standard during instruction and assessment to prepare the students for the alternate assessment item that could be represented. Now we'll share some examples of test items from both the regular state assessment and the alternate assessment so that you as the parents will better understand how your student may be assessed. As a member of the ARC, this information will better assist you in discussing and understanding the discussion regarding state assessment participation options. Let's first look at elementary level examples of reading assessment questions and responses. This is an example of a test question on the regular state assessment in reading for a student in grade 3. Notice the longer text provided and the brief instructions on how they select their answers from the choices provided. The student will be told they are going to read a passage and they will have to answer the questions related to what they have read or hear. The student will have to answer the questions given based on the passage the student or administrator reads. This is an example of a short answer response on the regular state assessment for grade 3. This would require a student to respond by comparing two texts. Students would still be able to use accommodations if they were permitted on the IEP, 504 plan, or program service plan. This is an example of a question from an alternate assessment in reading in the same grade 3. The italicized portion of the test questions for alternate assessment is the script for the certified teacher to read to the student. The multiple choice options at the bottom will read while simultaneously pointing to the corresponding pictures. The student will be told they are going to read a passage and they will have to answer the questions related to what they hear or read. The student will have to identify what the main idea is from the passage the administrator reads. This is an example of the text provided on a reading passage for grade 3 alternate assessment. The text would be read by a certified teacher administrating the test. Notice the reading passage is shorter than what is provided on the regular state assessment. It also comes with a picture board. This is an example of the picture board for the previous reading alternate assessment grade 3 passage. The pictures would correspond with the text administrator would read. This is an example of alternate assessment reading grade 3 answer choices with pictures. The student is given 3 choices to choose from. Each choice is paired with a picture. These pictures can be placed on an assistive technology device as well. Now let's look at high school level examples of math assessment questions and responses. This is an example of a grade 10 question in the area of math on the regular state assessment. The assessment contains a short passage, table, and one question with a place to provide an answer in a box. This is an example of the question including a table and answer choices given on a math alternate assessment. The student is provided a short question with 3 answer choices, including pictures or manipulatives. The student is provided a table to use to answer the question. Manipulatives and other accommodations may be used as indicated on the student's IEP. These are pictures of the answer choices provided, and other accommodations can be used. This module was meant to help you as a parent or guardian understand who takes the state assessment at each grade level, how students are assessed, the types of assessment requirements, the academic standards the students are tested on for each test, and the types of questions and responses students will be assessed with. Should you have any additional questions about the differences between the regular state assessment and the alternate assessment, please contact Lauren Thieneman in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning in the Division of IDEA Monitoring and Results.